Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, weekly update with regards to what's happening at the masjid. I've just returned from court, Chancery Lane, Royal Courts of Justice. Yeah, good news, in fact, good news, alhamdulillah, for the brothers. What happened today essentially was the following. We had 16 brothers. I'll give you a little bit of a sort of backstory with regards to what this 16 brothers around a year and a half ago, it's almost been a year and a half since since the issue was taken forward legally. 16 brothers had undertakings. The masjid wanted to ban 16 brothers around, I would say, approximately just over a year ago. And so what they decided to do was obviously get the brothers banned at the Royal Courts of Justice. The judge neither wanted to ban people, ban the brothers without evidence. However, they wanted to find some sort of middle ground. So obviously you can't ban someone and, do a summary ban against 16 people, realize that there was no evidence eventually. It was all, potentially, God forbid, fabricated. And you've just stopped someone from going to the place of worship, which is obviously restricting them of their human rights. So the judge at the time found a middle ground. Now the middle ground was this, is that the 16 or so accused brothers would obviously, because unfortunately the evidence was compelling at the time, so as to keep the peace, the 16 or so accused brothers would have an undertaking, which was obviously they'd follow the code of conduct at the masjid, so on and so forth. Anyway, time had lapsed since that hearing, and the brothers were due to go back to court. In fact, the brothers requested this hearing today, in fact, because the masjid had gone totally obviously silent on this, and they had requested a hearing in order to get the undertakings lifted so they could obviously go to the masjid freely. So essentially what happened today, I don't know if I told you in the last video, obviously our solicitors wrote to them stating that we are going to be going to court. We'd like to obviously have the undertakings lifted. They then got a solicitor involved, which I've already stated, who argued that the masjid is a private property and it's it can be deemed as similar to that of someone's own private house. So if you can restrict access to whoever enters your home, you can restrict access to obviously the masjid as well. So they were looking at a out-and-out ban today. That's what they were looking at doing. So they filed a hearing today, when the brothers are actually hoping to go to court to get the injunctions, the undertakings lifted against them, not injunctions. Sorry, I said corrected. So the masjid committee decided with their solicitor and barrister to have bans placed on the brothers, on the 16 or so brothers. Obviously, the warning letters were just the first steps. And so they decided to go, obviously, culminate footage over the last year and a half of just, for example, it was just futile footage, really. I've had a word with some of the brothers, and they go, it's just really, it falls flat on its face. Some of the footage, it's not really evidence that you would submit to uphold or put in place a ban on someone or an injunction on someone for going to a place of worship. Anyway, so what happened today was the judge did not grant the temporary ban that they were wishing to seek, which then they would have requested a permanent ban on the 16 or so brothers. The judge did not grant that temporary ban. However, they have asked for an expedited hearing within around 4 weeks or so. So the judge didn't grant it, which is very, very good news. We were awarded costs up to 70% of costs. There was one shocking detail which I want to go into now. The masjid paid a barrister, their legal team, up to approximately £15,000. It cost the masjid £15,000 for this hearing, which lasted 2 hours. If you include the barrister's travelling time of 1 hour, and then the travelling time, the barrister is also going to charge for travelling. Obviously, going home, travelling to there, and the actual time spent in court, which was 2 hours. And it was quite interesting to see how the whole thing unfolded with regards to costs right at the end. But Alhamdulillah, we were awarded costs up to 70%. Obviously, stated that we could have it according to the legislation. And obviously, again, I think one of the most important things to take away from this whole thing is that we talk about money being spent, so on and so forth. However, you have to realize that it's your hard-earned money that was being spent today to potentially, obviously impose very, very different conditions on the brothers, banning from the masjid. That could have potentially included a cordon or a ban from the building itself. Again, not fair. The judges want to be equitable and fair in this matter. They want obviously the allegations and the proof to be brought forward, and then us to look at it and obviously defend ourselves. This is democracy that we're living in, and you don't get any more democratic than the Royal Courts of Justice in Chancery Lane. So that's what happens. Their whole episode in court today, just one day, cost them £15,000 approximately. They had claimed a lot more than that, though. They had inflated their figures to the point where if we would have to pay them today, we would have had incurred a cost of 70% of the £15,000 today. So yeah, this is what they're doing. They wanted to get outright bans, and we went there to have the undertakings removed. The undertakings are still going to remain in place, but the judge has asked for a expedited 4-week hearing. So we're going to now hopefully, inshallah, find a very, very good legal team to represent our case and take it forward. It is very, very difficult. I'm trying to give these updates as and when I can now. There is stuff going on. I mean, this is nothing to do with obviously my arrest and my bail conditions. That's a totally separate issue. It's a bigger and broader issue with regards to where the masjid goes. The barrister that they have, again, I'm going to reiterate, is stating that he's arguing under property rights, private law and property rights. That's the direction that he wants to push this in, and he wants to obviously get people. The issue is they've sent warning letters to 22, 23, approximately about 25 plus people, including the 16 brothers are in that list of 25. If they get a barrister to argue successfully in front of a judge that this is a private property, no one can enter, then the bans will go into the 50s, the hundreds. Let's just be honest. They can ban just the fact that you're related to one of the 16, or you're related to the other brothers. But again, alhamdulillah, we go forward. We ask for your prayers and patience and your time on this whole matter. It's been very difficult. Again, it just goes, where is the money coming from? There was one point that was pressed by the barrister today. Every week that the masjid remains closed, every delay that the masjid is having in remaining shut is a loss in revenue, and a further loss in revenue coming back coming back every time when there's a hearing and having to pay excessive legal costs, which is true. So why are you doing it in the first place? There's always another way. But obviously they have, the committee has chosen not to obviously partake in that, and they've chosen to take the legal route. Subhanallah, what can I say? It is upsetting when you think about it that these are Muslims doing this to other Muslims, but obviously they feel that it's their private property, it's their house, it's not a place of worship, and they restrict access. Again, I bring you down to the example of it's a nightclub. The bouncer looks at the list, the guest list. Okay, you're not down the list, you're not coming in. That's what's essentially going on here. So again, yeah, it's a niggling worry, but alhamdulillah, we have faith in the justice system, and it cannot be construed as a private property. This is a public building, it's a public place of worship. So yeah, that's the update that I wanted to give you. Approximately £15,000 of your donated money is going to pay legal fees. £15,000 of your donated money. We're going to be reimbursed from their side approximately 70% of around £3,000 today, which our legal team charged, alhamdulillah. Their case for banning having a temporary, permanent, any type of ban put in place, which they wanted to seek today with their legal team, was basically in the nicest possible terms thrown out by the judge. And again, I commend the judge for listening to our legal team plead our case. That was amazing to see how she listened to the entire case. She wasn't swayed, she was equitable. You know, it was a balanced judgment. Obviously not on the committee side, obviously it wasn't, but it was a balanced judgment. And, you know, I commend the judge for that and allowing our legal team to have our say. Alhamdulillah, that's all the update that I have for you this week. As I'm saying, obviously the country is in the grips of the coronavirus, so that's an additional issue. And yeah, we'll keep you guys posted as and when. But it has been, it's a you know, I look, we aren't taking it. There's no sense of bravado or sense of victory in this. It's a loss for the entire community. That's your hard-earned money. It could have been the sadaqah money that was spent on legal proceedings today. The sadaqah money. How do we know? How do we know? We don't know. We don't know. But obviously, thank you to our legal team again for representing us. And again, it's a loss for the community. It's sad for the community. I don't take any joy in the fact that our committee lost. These were individuals that we were able to trust once. But obviously, things haven't been like that. Yeah, this is what's happened. 12,000, for 15,000 pounds. Apologies, 15,000 pounds of your donated money were spent on this 4 hours. 15,000 pounds. Wow. That's wow. 4 hours. Yeah, a barrister. Apparently, three associates, possibly maybe 3 people were paid, but I don't have the correct facts on that. But there was a lot of money spent. And it's very, very sad that the masjid has chosen to indulge in fighting this case. It's a charity, but obviously these are steps that you would expect a massive conglomerate company to take, or a mid-sized firm to take against any sort of reason. But this is a charity. It's essentially a charity. Again, one can only assume that the madrasa fees will now go up as a result. And I don't think that's essentially fair, but you have to realize that they're using this money for this purpose. That became apparent today. Alhamdulillah, signing out, Ali Tahir 60. That's all I have to say for today. I'll keep you guys posted as and when further developments transpire.